"Get out of my way, you useless old man. Can't you see I'm carrying a baby?" Ngozi's sharp voice cut through the morning air like a blade. The old man said nothing. He simply turned. He looked at her once, then he whispered something so quietly that nobody around her could hear it properly. But Ngozi heard it, and those words would follow her for the next 14 months. Before we go any further, I want to ask you something. If you are watching this right now and you have never subscribed to this channel, this is the moment. Press that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell right now before the story pulls you in and you forget. Because what you are about to hear is not just a story about a pregnancy that refused to end. It is a story about pride, about the kind of confidence that makes a person believe they are above ordinary kindness, about how life has a way of finding exactly the right pressure point to teach a lesson that words alone could never deliver. Stay with me to the end, because the moment Ngozi finally kneels before that old man and what he says to her when she does, that moment will stay with you for a very long time. Now, let us begin. In the river town of Aba, in the heart of Abia State, Ngozi was known for two things: her beauty and her pride. She had married well. Her husband Emeka worked for an oil company in Port Harcourt and sent money home every month. Their bungalow had a generator. They owned a car. Ngozi had a shop where she sold fabrics and wrappers along the main road. By every measure of the community, Ngozi had made it. And Ngozi made sure everyone knew it. She was the kind of woman who looked at market sellers with bored eyes, the kind who spoke to gatemen without greeting them by name, the kind who interrupted conversations because she believed whatever she had to say was more important than whatever anyone else was already saying. When she became pregnant, after 3 years of waiting and praying, something shifted inside her. The pregnancy didn't humble her, it elevated her. "I am carrying the next generation," she would say, laughing, patting her growing stomach. She moved through the market expecting crowds to part. She sat in church expecting the front row to be offered to her. She entered conversations about other people's pregnancies and redirected them back to her own. At 7 months, she was confident and radiant. At 8 months, she was glowing and unstoppable. But pride has a way of choosing the worst moment to reveal its cost. It was a hot Wednesday morning in February. The sun was already burning by 9 a.m., that dry season heat that makes people move slower and speak less. Ngozi had been at the market fabric since early morning, bargaining hard with a lace supplier. She was angry because the man had refused to drop his price. The anger followed her as she left, buzzing around her head like a mosquito. She was taking the shortcut path beside the motor park, a narrow sandy road between two fences where people squeezed past each other carefully, when she nearly walked directly into an old man. He was very old. His back was bent like a river making a turn. He wore a plain white agbada, dusty at the hem. He moved with a wooden walking stick that had been used so long it had worn smooth at the grip. He had been walking in the same direction as her, slowly at the edge of the path. Ngozi didn't slow down. She swerved around him sharply, and her market bag knocked against his walking stick. The old man stumbled. He didn't fall, but he struggled to keep his balance. "Careful now, my daughter," he said gently, steadying himself. "The ground is uneven here." Ngozi stopped, turned around. "Your daughter?" She looked him up and down. "You should be the one to be careful. Look how you're blocking the whole road." The old man blinked. "I was not blocking the road. We both had enough space. You walked into—"
"Don't tell me what happened," Ngozi snapped. "My back is killing me. My feet are swollen. I've been standing in that market since 7 in the morning, and now you want to argue with me?" A woman nearby selling groundnuts looked up. A teenage boy on a bicycle stopped pedaling, watching. "I'm only saying be careful," the old man repeated, his voice still gentle. "In your condition, rushing is not wise." "My condition is none of your business," Ngozi's voice rose. "Nobody asked you. If you can't move fast, stay off the road. Don't come and be blocking people who have places to be." The old man's expression changed. Something moved behind his eyes. Something old and deep, like a river current you can't see from the surface. "My daughter," he said slowly. The child you are carrying is innocent. Whatever anger you have inside you, that child does not deserve to carry it. That comment pushed Ngozi completely over the edge. What did you just say? She stepped toward him. What does my child have to do with your useless advice? You don't know me. You don't know my child. Keep your mouth off my family. You should lower your voice, the old man said quietly. This is not how a mother speaks. Mother? I'll speak however I want. Ngozi jabbed her finger toward his face. Old man, if you're not careful, You what? The old man's voice dropped so low it was almost inaudible. But everyone nearby heard it perfectly. What will you do to me? Ngozi raised her hand, and she slapped him, open palm, across his left cheek. The sound of it spread down the whole narrow road like a thunderclap. Everyone froze. The groundnut seller dropped her tray. The boy on the bicycle put both feet on the ground. The old man did not stumble this time. He simply stood. He touched his cheek with one palm. He looked at Ngozi without blinking. Then, with movements that seemed almost ceremonial, he adjusted his agbada. He picked up his walking stick from where it had fallen, and he spoke. His voice was not raised. It was not dramatic. It was quiet and measured and final. The child inside you will stay inside you until your pride has been fully broken. You will know the exact moment to push, but your body will not cooperate until the lesson has settled. You will beg those you have walked over, and you will mean it. Ngozi laughed, a forced, brittle sound. Drama, she said, old man drama. She turned and walked away, but her hands were shaking so badly she had to grip her market bag with both fists. That night, lying in bed, she heard his voice again and again. Until your pride has been fully broken. She pressed her hands against her stomach. It's nothing, she whispered, just an old man's empty words. But even as she said it, she didn't believe herself. At 9 months, everything seemed fine. Emeka came home from Port Harcourt and began preparing in earnest. He painted the small room beside their bedroom a soft yellow. He assembled the wooden cot he had bought. He stocked the kitchen with things he'd read about online: oats, dates, coconut water. Ngozi packed her hospital bag 3 weeks before her due date. She washed the tiny onesies and folded them into a small plastic drawer. She wrote down the midwife's number, the hospital number, the backup hospital number. She was ready. The due date came on a Thursday. Thursday passed. They went to the midwife. She examined Ngozi carefully and frowned in a way that made Ngozi's stomach drop. Your cervix is not opening, not even beginning. But I'm full term. Everything is ready. I feel ready.
Your body says otherwise, the midwife patted her hand. Sometimes it takes extra time. Come back in a week. They went home. A week passed, then another. Each night, Ngozi would feel what she was convinced were the beginnings of contractions, tightening, pressure, sharp discomfort across her lower abdomen. Each time, Emeka would leap from sleep and begin gathering car keys and hospital bags. Each time, they would arrive at the clinic or the hospital only to be told the same thing. Not ready yet. The baby is fine. Your body is just taking its time. By the 10th month, Ngozi's excitement had cuddled into dread. She stopped going to the fabric shop. She couldn't stand for long periods anymore. Her ankles swelled by midday. Her back ached through every night. Sleep came in shallow waves and left before morning. Emeka's mother arrived from Anambra. She sat across from Ngozi for a long time without speaking. Then she said, gently but directly, "My daughter, is there anything you did? Anyone you wronged since this pregnancy started?" Ngozi felt the question land somewhere deep inside her. She said, "No." Her mother-in-law watched her for another long moment. "Think carefully," she said, "because bodies do not behave this way without reason. Doctors are not God." That night, Ngozi lay awake and let the memory she had been pushing down for months rise fully to the surface. The narrow road, the old man's white agbada, the sound of her palm against his cheek. Until your pride has been fully broken. She turned over, pressed her face into her pillow. A dream came to her near dawn. She was standing in the motor park beside the narrow road. It was empty. No cars, no sellers, no noise, just silence and dust and heat. The old man stood at the far end of the road, facing her. He said nothing. He simply pointed at her stomach, and Ngozi felt a tightening so severe she doubled over in the dream and woke up gasping in her bed, clutching her stomach, convinced the baby was finally coming. It wasn't.
Emeka held her while she sobbed. "What is happening to me?" she kept saying. "What is happening to me?" It was Emeka who finally brought it up in daylight, 3 days later. "There is a woman in my office," he said carefully, "whose sister had something similar. Not this long, but they say they visited a dibia in Iswochi who helped them understand what was happening." "A dibia?" Ngozi repeated. "I'm not saying it's that," Emeka said quickly. "But Ngozi, we have done everything medicine has to offer. I'm running out of roads to try." She looked at her hands in her lap, at her enormous stomach, at the yellow walls of the baby's room visible through the open door, the cot assembled and waiting for 11 months. "Book the travel," she said quietly. The dibia lived in a compound built under 3 enormous iroko trees in a village outside Iswochi. He was younger than Ngozi expected, perhaps 60, with a calm face and careful eyes. He listened to everything Emeka said without interrupting. He did not look at Ngozi while Emeka spoke. When Emeka finished, the dibia was quiet for so long that Ngozi thought perhaps he had fallen asleep sitting up. Then he turned and looked directly at her. "You struck someone who carries old blood," he said simply. Ngozi's breath caught. "You didn't just insult someone, you touched them. And what you touched, it touched you back." "Can you help us?" Emeka asked, leaning forward. The dibia shook his head slowly. Emeka's face crumbled. "Please, we can pay. Whatever you need." "It is not about payment," the dibia said. "What she broke cannot be fixed by anyone except the person she broke it in front of, the old man." He looked at Ngozi. Not just words, not just a phone call. She must go to him herself. She must go down before him, not to collect the baby, but to genuinely ask to be forgiven for what she did to him as a human being. Ngozi swallowed. "And if he refuses?" The dibia stood slowly, signaling the conversation was ending. As they walked back to the car, he called after them. 12 months is where the danger begins. Do not waste more time." The 12th month arrived like a sentence being passed. Ngozi could no longer stand without assistance. Emeka had installed a handle beside the toilet and another beside the bed. Walking from the bedroom to the kitchen took 5 minutes and left her breathing hard. The whole town of Aba knew now. The story had spread far beyond their neighborhood. Women she barely knew sent food. Church members came to pray. Distant relatives called with advice ranging from prayer mountain suggestions to herbal remedies that arrived by courier in unlabeled bottles. Nothing changed. Then one afternoon, a former neighbor called, a woman named Mrs. Uchenna, who had been present on the narrow road that February morning 10 months earlier. "Ngozi, you remember that day near the motor park?" Ngozi's throat tightened. "Yes." "The old man, his name is Papa Amadi. My husband knows his son. He is still in Aba. He lives near Orata." A pause. "I thought you should know." After Ngozi hung up, she sat motionless for a very long time. Then she called Emeka. "I need to tell you something," she said. everything. She told him the whole story, every word she had said, the slap, the old man's warning, the way she had walked away laughing. By the time she finished, she was crying so hard she could barely speak. Emeka said nothing for a full minute. Then, "How long have you been carrying this?" he said. "Since the beginning," she whispered. Another silence. "Then we go tomorrow, first thing."
That night, Ngozi dreamed again. The same narrow road, but this time the old man was walking away from her, getting smaller and smaller in the distance. She tried to run after him, but her legs wouldn't move. She woke up at 3 a.m. and prayed until sunrise. Not for the baby to come. She prayed for the chance to truly be sorry. Finding Papa Amadi took 2 days. The address Mrs. Uchenna had given led them to a compound where his son used to live, but the son had moved to a new place in another part of Aba. A kind woman at the compound gave them the new address. The new address led to a rented flat where a neighbor said the old man sometimes visited his son on weekends. Ngozi did not stop. Every dead end she met, she simply asked the next question. She could barely walk. She sat in the car between stops, one hand pressed against her enormous stomach, breathing carefully. People stared at her wherever they stopped. An old man at a filling station looked at her belly for a long time and then looked away without saying anything, which somehow made it worse. On the second afternoon, they found him. He was sitting outside his son's house in a plastic chair, shelling groundnuts into a bowl, moving slowly and deliberately the way very old people do. He was wearing a plain blue shirt. His wooden walking stick rested against the wall beside him. Ngozi saw him from the car window and everything inside her went completely still. Emeka touched her arm. "Do you want me to come?" "No," she said. "This one is mine alone." She opened the car door. Getting out took effort. She walked toward him slowly, one step at a time, her sandals scraping on the dusty concrete. Papa Amadi looked up when she was still several meters away. He recognized her immediately. She could see it in his face. Not anger, not triumph, just a quiet recognition. She reached him and stopped. Her legs bent before she consciously decided to kneel. She went down onto both knees on the hard ground in front of his plastic chair. "Papa," she said, her voice was barely audible, "I came to beg you." The old man set down his bowl of groundnuts. "I was wrong," Ngozi continued, tears running freely down her face. "I have spent this whole pregnancy believing that carrying a child made me important, that my discomfort gave me the right to treat people as if they were obstacles." She pressed her forehead toward the ground in the full prostration of someone with no remaining pride. "I hit you. I humiliated you on a public road. I spoke to you like you were nothing. You were someone's father, someone's grandfather. You had survived more years on this earth than I have been alive, and I raised my hand against you because I was annoyed at a fabric seller." She sobbed openly. "I am not asking you to remove anything. I am not here about the pregnancy. I am here because what I did to you was wrong, and I need you to know that I know that, fully, from the bottom of my heart." The compound was completely silent. Papa Amadi looked at her for a long time. His face was impossible to read. Then he sighed, a long, slow exhale, like something releasing. "Get up," he said. Ngozi raised her head slowly. "Get up," he repeated. She struggled to her feet. Emeka appeared from nowhere and steadied her. Papa Amadi looked at her belly, then at her face. His eyes were wet. "When my wife was pregnant with our first son, her landlord beat her because she was 3 days late on rent. She lost that baby." He paused. "After that, she was never the same." Ngozi's hand flew to her mouth. "I did not curse you, my daughter. What I said to you that day, I said it out of old pain, out of anger I have been carrying since long before you were born." He wiped his eye with the back of his weathered hand. "I have also been wrong. I have been walking around this earth with a bitterness so old it has become part of me, and I spoke it out onto you." He reached forward and placed his right hand very gently on Ngozi's stomach. "Go home," he said. "You are already forgiven." Ngozi's labor began at exactly 4:17 that morning. Not the false starts, not the pressure without progress. Real,
undeniable tidal contractions that came like waves, one after the other, leaving no space between them for doubt. She grabbed Emeka's arm in the dark and said simply, "It is time." The drive to the hospital took 11 minutes. The labor itself lasted 7 hours, long and difficult and completely real. She screamed through each contraction. She gripped the bed rail until her knuckles went pale. She called on God, on her mother, on every ancestor she could remember her name of. At 11:43 a.m. on a bright Tuesday morning, her son came into the world. He came out crying before he was fully out, a loud, furious, insulted wail that filled the entire maternity ward and made 2 nurses laugh from sheer surprise. The doctor who delivered him looked at his chart, 14 months gestation, and stood in silence for a moment before writing anything. Ngozi held him to her chest and could not speak for a long time. She just cried, with her son crying against her skin, the two of them finally meeting properly for the first time. Emeka sat in the chair beside her bed with his face in his hands, shaking with relief. When he finally looked up, his eyes were completely red. "What will we name him?" he managed.
Ngozi looked at her son's face, this small, furious, long-awaited face, and said without hesitation, "Chinonso, God is near." The woman who came home from that hospital was different from the one who had walked through Aba's market 2 years earlier, confident that the world owed her patience. She was slower, not from physical weakness, her body recovered well, but from choice. She moved through the world with a new carefulness, a new attention to who was around her and what they might be carrying. She returned to her fabric shop, but she reopened it differently. She learned the names of every seller in the market around her. She started greeting the security guard at the plaza by his first name and found out he had a daughter studying nursing in Enugu and was proud beyond words. She visited Papa Amadi twice more. She brought yam and stockfish the first time. She brought his favorite biscuits the second time. She had asked his son. He was not a man who showed emotion easily, but both times when she was leaving, he watched her walk to the car with something that looked very much like peace on his face. She started a small fund at her church for women who couldn't afford antenatal care. It wasn't large, but every 3 months, 2 or 3 women got their clinic fees paid. And Chinonso, that loud, furious, long-awaited boy, grew up hearing his mother tell the story of his birth without shame because she had decided that hiding it would mean losing the lesson. "You are held inside me," she would tell him when he was old enough to understand, "until your mother learned to bow." There is an old saying in Igbo land, "Onye wetara oji, wetara ndu." The one who brings kola brings life. But equally true is this: the one who takes peace from others will search for their own peace for a very long time. Ngozi did not suffer because she was unlucky. She suffered because she had forgotten something essential: that age deserves respect, that suffering does not grant the right to inflict suffering, that the strangers you walk past on narrow roads are not obstacles placed in your path. They are people, whole people, carrying histories you cannot see. She was reminded in the most painful and personal way possible, and the lesson settled. My people, we have reached the end of today's story. And before you go, before you move to the next thing your phone is already calling you toward, I want you to sit with this for just one moment. Ngozi was not a bad person. She was a proud person, and pride is a quiet sin. It does not announce itself. It wraps itself in confidence and success and the belief that your blessings make you better than others, and it stays hidden until the moment life decides to strip it away. Ask yourself honestly, is there someone in your life you have walked past without truly seeing? A gateman, a cleaner, an elderly neighbor, a market woman who greets you every morning and whose name you have never asked? Someone you spoke to carelessly because you were tired or angry or simply too comfortable in your own importance? It may not cost you 14 months, but pride always has a price. Now, I have 3 things I need from you before you leave this video. First, if this story touched something real inside you, share it right now.
Send it to your family group, share it on your status, forward it to that one friend who needs to hear this today. You never know whose heart is ready for exactly this message. Second, drop a comment below and tell me, what lesson did Ngozi's story leave with you? Have you ever been humbled the hard way by life forcing you to bow when you refuse to bow on your own? I read every single comment, every one, and your words help others who are reading the comments feel less alone in their own stories. Third, if you are not yet subscribed to this channel, do it now. Right now, before this video ends, click subscribe and turn on that notification bell so that every time a new story comes, you are the first to know. These stories are released every week. Stories of real African life, of pride and humility, of betrayal and forgiveness, of loss and redemption. You do not want to miss what is coming next. To those of you who have been watching since the beginning, who have sat through every story, left your kind words, shared with your people, and kept coming back week after week, I see you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are not just subscribers, you are family. You are the reason these stories continue to breathe. Africa's stories were never meant to die on the tongues that first spoke them. They were built to travel, from one heart to the next, from one generation to the one still coming. You are part of that chain now. Take care of each other out there. Greet the elderly. Learn the names of people you pass every day. Slow down on narrow roads. And I will see you in the next story.